Hello everybody and welcome back to part two of how to walk an aggressive dog. If you haven't checked out part 1, make sure that you do that. I'm gonna link it below. In that, we talk about how to deal with a dog that is aggressive at the door. In this video, we're gonna talk about how to walk a dog that's aggressive to other dogs and people on the street as you're walking it. Of course, I am going to gear this towards dog walkers, but it's totally applicable to anyone who happens to be walking a dog. So let's get started. Okay, I have so much experience with this because believe it or not, my dog Django is aggressive towards other dogs and sometimes people when we're walking on the street. So I got a lot of tips and tricks that I'm gonna give to you guys today. When a dog shows any type of aggression, it's not doing it for no reason at all. It's doing it as a coping mechanism for something that's scary or unknown. So whether the dog had a bad experience with another dog in the past or it's just simply afraid of its size, it might react with barking, lunging, and biting because it's afraid. And the best thing to do in this situation when you're walking a dog is just to avoid that situation altogether, which is a lot easier said than done. This is why it's so important to know the dog that you're walking before you actually walk it, and why consistent clients is an amazing thing if you are a dog walker. Because then you know exactly what's going to trigger that dog and you can avoid the situation before it blows up in your face. If you're walking down the street with your dog and you see something that is going to trigger it, so let's just say it's a large dog that's coming on the street next to you. Before that dog gets close to you, make sure that you keep your dog on a tight leash and you cross the road so that you get away from that dog. Every dog has a threshold, so there's gonna be a certain distance away from another dog that they feel okay, and anything within that, they're gonna freak out. So know the dog's threshold so that you can stay outside of it and avoid that situation altogether. With training, we can reduce that threshold, but if you're being paid just to be a dog walker and not for actually training the dog, then you don't necessarily have to worry about that. It's not your job, so just cross the street if you can. You may be thinking, that's all fine and good, but what do I do if the dog sneaks up on me too fast, or I go to a corner and there's a dog just happens to be there and I don't have time to cross the street? So we're gonna get into that as well. Treats are gonna be your best friend here. Some people will use toys, but I find that actually heightens the energy of the dog, so I don't like using toys in this. I much prefer to use treats, so find out what kind of treats that dog finds absolutely irresistible, like the best treats in the world, and make sure that you get some of those for when you're working on this training. You wanna make sure that you're working outside of that threshold that I mentioned. So know exactly when that dog is gonna freak out from seeing the other dog, and make sure that you're working outside of that so that they're not already in a heightened state when you try to do this kind of work. You wanna eventually reduce that so that the dog is okay being around other dogs, but we need to take baby steps, otherwise the whole thing is just gonna blow up in your face. So, using the treats, when the dog sees the other dog, make sure that you get the dog's attention. Then you're gonna get it to work. So you're gonna get it to do sits, shake a paw, whatever the dog knows how to do. By doing something, that's gonna take away the anxiety of the dog because they're focusing all of that energy and attention onto something else as opposed to just sitting there waiting for the dog to arrive. Make sure that you're rewarding very often so that the dog starts to see that, oh, when I see a dog, I get to work and I get to get food. So it ends up being a pleasant experience for the dog. If the dog is ignoring the treats, then the treats are either not high enough value for them and you need to get something a little bit better, or you're too close to that other dog, aka in the threshold. So you need to take a step back and make sure that you're far enough away that the dog can focus on doing the work instead of focusing on freaking out at that other dog. If you're working with a dog over the course of many different walks and it seems to be getting better, that's great, but don't try to then test the dog by reducing that space between the two dogs really quickly, because you're just gonna take 2 steps back in your training. Baby steps forward is better than giant steps back. So stay consistent. It's also very important that the owners keep up on this training when they're walking their own dog. So you need to show them how it's done. Remember, when a dog shows aggression, it's because it's afraid. And your job as a dog walker is to make all of your dogs as happy as possible when the owners are away. Thank you guys for watching this video, and if you haven't already, then make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you like to see dogs and get dog tips, and we'll see you in the next video.
Oh my god. Yes! Oh my god, that's hilarious. If you might get though.